From football icon to global businessman, David Beckham has created a life most people can only dream about. His world is packed with wealth, luxury, and influence. But one detail about how he lives today may be the biggest surprise of all. Let's break down his billionaire lifestyle. Let's start from the top. David Beckham was born on May 2, 1975, in Leytonstone, London. He's the son of Sandra Georgina, a hairdresser, and David Edward Ted Beckham, a kitchen fitter. Nothing about that background screams billionaire. There was no family trust fund, no property portfolio waiting to be inherited, no famous last name. What there was, though, was a ball and an obsession that never switched off. Growing up in a household of dedicated Manchester United supporters, David's passion for the sport was ignited early, as he frequently traveled with his parents and sisters to Old Trafford to attend home matches. His talent was evident by age 11, when he won the prestigious Bobby Charlton Soccer School's talent competition, which earned him a trip to train with FC Barcelona. Read that again, 11 years old, FC Barcelona. This wasn't some kid messing around in the park. This was somebody built differently from the start. He signed schoolboy forms with Manchester United when he was 14, and that's where his journey to the first team began. Due to his undoubted talent, Beckham became part of the famous class of '92 at Man Utd, winning the 1992 FA Youth Cup with players like Gary Neville, Phil Neville, Paul Scholes, Nicky Butt, and Ryan Giggs. That group, the class of '92, became one of the most celebrated cohorts of young footballers England had ever produced. Beckham was right in the middle of it, and while those players would all go on to successful careers, it was Beckham who would eventually eclipse all of them in terms of global fame and financial reach. By 1995, at 20 years old, he was a full-time starter and gained major traction in '96 when he scored a goal against Wimbledon from behind midfield. This skill inspired the phrase "bend it like Beckham," which was turned into a movie starring Keira Knightley in 2002. That goal, that single moment, broadcast into living rooms across the world, replayed for years. It wasn't just a goal, it was a marketing event. And neither Beckham nor anyone around him could have fully understood that at the time. He won 6 Premier Leagues, 2 FA Cups, 2 Charity Shields, 1 Champions League, and an Intercontinental Cup with Man Utd before signing for Real Madrid in 2003. The haircuts, the sarong, the marriage to Victoria Adams, better known as Posh Spice. Every single thing he did got covered, dissected, and printed. And it was during these years that something important started to quietly take shape. His value off the pitch was beginning to outpace his value on it. As early as 1997, he signed an advertising deal with Brill Cream that earned the then 22-year-old a staggering £4 million. £4 million for a hair gel deal. At 22, before the internet had fully arrived, before social media was even a concept. That tells you everything you need to know about how far ahead of the curve Beckham already was when it came to understanding what his face and name were worth. In 2005, France Football claimed that Beckham was the best paid player in world football. It was claimed that whilst at Real Madrid, he was earning $22.6 million per year, which was more than the likes of Ronaldo Nazario and Zinedine Zidane. The 3 players all got almost $6 million per season, but Beckham was picking up $16.7 million per year in advertising contracts, making him the richest player at Real Madrid. That's the number to pay attention to. His salary at the time was roughly in line with the other Galacticos, but the endorsement money almost 3 times what the base contract was worth. He was playing football alongside Zidane and Ronaldo, and somehow he was the richest one in the dressing room, not because of goals, because of brand. That's the origin story of the empire. It didn't start in a boardroom. It started with a kid from East London who understood, maybe instinctively, maybe by design, that who you are is just as valuable as what you do. Now, the Real Madrid years were glamorous. The Galacticos, the Bernabeu, the fashion shoots, the global headlines. But when it came to the one move that would ultimately make Beckham a billionaire, none of that compared to what happened next. In 2007, David Beckham did something that at face value looked like a step backwards. At the age of 31, Beckham decided to embark on a new challenge in the summer of 2007, when he left Madrid for the glitz and glamour of California. He'd spent the past 15 years playing against Europe's elite, winning trophies with Manchester United and Real Madrid, so when he packed his bags for a league that was barely 10 years old, people asked questions. The questions were fair. MLS in 2007 wasn't what it is today. The American MLS League was often described as the place where European stars went in the autumn of their careers for the last big paycheck. Critics dismissed it. Football purists scoffed. Even some of Beckham's closest allies thought the move was premature. But here's what most people watching didn't see, and what most reporting about the Galaxy deal missed entirely. Buried in the Galaxy agreement was an option to purchase a future MLS expansion team for $25 million. At a time when Major League Soccer was still developing, and the long-term commercial upside of American soccer was far from obvious to anyone watching from the outside. $25 million. That single clause, buried in the small print of a player contract, would eventually generate a return that no hedge fund manager, no venture capitalist, no Wall Street genius has ever come close to matching in the world of sport. The switch to LA Galaxy changed the game, and as per Forbes, saw him collect $255 million in total earnings, with endorsements and revenue shares factored in his stint, which lasted between 2007 and 2012. Beckham had actually agreed a 70% pay cut, but his deal included two unique contract clauses. The most beneficial being the right to buy an MLS franchise for $25 million when he called it a day. Think about the architecture of that deal for a second. He took less money up front, a 70% cut from what he was earning in Madrid. That's not a negotiation blunder, that's a trade. He traded salary for equity. And in doing so, he made a bet that American soccer was going to grow. Not just grow, explode. Beckham negotiated a percentage of all team revenue as part of his contract in Los Angeles, meaning his earnings skyrocketed in the coming weeks, months, and years. And to be clear, that revenue included everything from merchandise, tickets, and sponsorships, as well as hot dogs, beer, and nachos sold at games. That revenue share clause alone started printing money. But the expansion option? That was the atom bomb. When Beckham signed his initial contract in 2007, Toronto had entered the league after paying a $10 million expansion fee. By his 2013 retirement, that had jumped to about $40 million. In 2018, when the Miami expansion was formally announced, expansion fees had jumped to $110 million. He had the right to buy in at $25 million, while expansion fees were reaching $110 million and climbing fast. And even with all of that context, MLS tried to take it away from him. At one point before Inter Miami was fully formed, Beckham said the league offered to buy the expansion option back from him for $50 million. He turned it down. He looked at a $50 million check, a $25 million profit on paper for doing nothing, and said no. That decision alone is worth understanding, because it means he didn't just believe in American soccer. He believed in it so much he was willing to walk away from guaranteed profit to chase something bigger. Beckham exercised the option in February 2014, shortly after he retired. The team, however, wasn't formally announced until January 2018. And even then, nothing came easy. The process took nearly a decade. Site disputes, ownership structure negotiations, stadium approvals, and regulatory complexity. There were years, actual years, where this thing looked like it might never happen. Stadium plans got rejected, partners came and went. The city of Miami pushed back. The media questioned whether Beckham had bitten off more than he could chew, but he didn't walk away. He went and found the right partners. A major turning point was Beckham's addition of outside partners, most notably brothers Jorge and Jose Mas, who have deep connections in South Florida politics and development. With the Mas brothers on board, the pieces started falling into place. Inter Miami CF, co-founded in 2018, was the result. And it would be transformed by the 2023 signing of Lionel Messi, the 2025 MLS Cup victory, and the 2026 opening of Miami Freedom Park, a billion-dollar stadium and mixed-use development. But before all of that came the patience. Years of grinding, years of being mocked for the stadium delays, years of a team that struggled on the pitch while the off-pitch operation slowly, methodically took shape. His $25 million option is now one of the best single investment decisions in sports history. And it started with a contract clause most people never even read. So Inter Miami is up and running. The team makes its MLS debut in 2020. And for the first couple of seasons, it's fine. A new club, finding its feet, playing to half-full stadiums in Fort Lauderdale, while the permanent stadium situation gets sorted out. Phase 1 saw Miami play at DRV PNK Stadium in Fort Lauderdale with 18,000 capacity. A temporary home requiring 45-minute drives from Miami, limiting fan base growth. The football wasn't setting the world on fire. The buzz was moderate. The attendance numbers were modest. And then in the summer of 2023, David Beckham made a phone call, or received one, that changed absolutely everything. Lionel Messi, the greatest footballer of all time, was coming to Inter Miami. This will be up there with the biggest moves in American sporting history, Beckham said. The move he's referring to? Inter Miami's 2023 signing of renowned Argentinian soccer player Lionel Messi. And he wasn't wrong. When Beckham signed Lionel Messi in July 2023, the team's annual revenue rocketed from less than $70 million to $250 million, and Inter Miami became MLS's most valuable franchise. That's not growth, that's a transformation. The kind of thing that happens in business textbooks, not in football clubs. Revenue didn't double, it didn't triple. It went from less than $70 million to $250 million in a single year. Messi joined Inter Miami in 2023 in what became one of the most commercially transformative moments in American soccer history. Average attendance jumped from 14,000 to 22,000 plus, limited only by stadium capacity. Merchandise sales exploded, sponsorship revenue tripled, every seat sold out, every jersey flew off the shelves, every broadcast deal became more valuable overnight. And Messi, with his 500 million Instagram followers, introduced the club to audiences that had never watched an MLS game in their lives in South America, in Europe, in Asia. Inter Miami wasn't just a football club anymore. It was a global media property. I never thought I would have the same feeling as an owner as I had when I was a player, Beckham said. When I got the phone call, I had the feeling I had when I walked out at Old Trafford or Wembley. I was like, we've just beaten all competition to sign the greatest player to ever play our game. That quote tells you a lot about where Beckham's head was at in this phase of his life. The ownership high. The feeling of competing, not on a pitch, but in a boardroom, in a negotiation, in a race against other clubs who also wanted Messi. And winning. The Netflix documentary deal reportedly earned Beckham $36 million. But the more significant outcome was what it did to Inter Miami's global profile. At exactly the moment Lionel Messi arrived. The timing was not coincidental. A 4-part series about the owner of the club that had just signed the greatest footballer in history, dropped into a streaming market of 260 million subscribers, was a marketing operation that no conventional advertising budget could have replicated. Think about the coordination of that. A Netflix documentary about his own life, covering Manchester United, the doubts, the drama, the rise, that goes live at the same moment. Messi arrives at his club. The whole world is suddenly watching Inter Miami, and they're also suddenly watching Beckham on Netflix. That docuseries drew more than 12 million views in its first week, and on the pitch, the results followed too. The team won its first MLS Cup title in 2025. Inter Miami won the MLS Cup with a 3-1 victory over the Vancouver Whitecaps. Lionel Messi assisted twice. The club that people had dismissed, delayed, doubted, won the championship. Forbes valued Inter Miami at roughly $1.35 billion in 2026, making it the most valuable club in Major League Soccer. And Beckham's stake in that, even accounting for dilution from bringing in partners over the years, represents one of the most remarkable financial returns in sporting history. Beckham's $25 million option might ultimately generate a 100x return, proving that the smartest investments often come from opportunities others don't see and having the patience to execute perfectly when the moment arrives. 100 times from a football contract clause that most people never even noticed. Here's the thing though, Inter Miami is the headline, but it's not the whole story, not even close. While the stadium negotiations were dragging on, while the club was finding its feet, while the world was still processing the messy signing, David Beckham had been quietly building a commercial operation that would have made him wealthy even if Inter Miami had never happened. It starts with DB Ventures, his personal business entity. DB Ventures handles his endorsement deals, licensing agreements, and image rights. This company manages lucrative deals with brands such as Adidas, Hague Club, Tudor, Maserati, and Coty. And the breadth of that brand portfolio is something that most people underestimate. Over the years, Beckham has fronted campaigns for Adidas, Armani, Calvin Klein, Pepsi, Samsung, Vodafone, Gillette, Sainsbury's, Breitling, H&M, Boss, Hague, and Coty, with a lifetime Adidas partnership forming the longest-running and most lucrative single relationship. That's not a list of endorsements. That's a diversified brand portfolio. He sat at the intersection of sport, style, and pop culture for 3 decades, and he's charged for every second of that positioning. Most athletes treat endorsements as income. Beckham treated them as brand investment, each partnership chosen partly for what it said about the Beckham identity and what that identity would be worth to the next partner in the chain. That's a fundamentally different mindset, and it explains why, when Authentic Brands Group, the parent company of Reebok, Nautica, and Juicy Couture, came knocking, they were willing to pay a staggering amount for a piece of it. Authentic Brands Group purchased a 55% stake in DB Ventures for $269 million in February 2022, which monetized a significant portion of his image rights portfolio, $269 million. For the right to co-own his name and image, and critically, Beckham kept 45% and creative control. He didn't just sell the asset and walk away. He sold a majority stake, pocketed north of $250 million in cash and stock, and stayed at the wheel. Since then, his brand business has exploded. Revenue climbed to $100 million in 2025, according to Forbes, driven by partnerships with Hugo Boss, Adidas, Stella Artois, Shark Ninja, and others. In 2024 alone, Beckham made $23.6 million in dividends from his business empire, with pre-tax profits rising 44%. Now, on top of that, the Qatar deal, this one came with controversy attached. In October 2021, it was widely reported that David had signed a 10-year deal that paid $21 million per year to be Qatar's tourism ambassador. The deal value is reportedly worth a minimum of $210 million over the decade, but could ultimately be worth closer to $280 million, according to various reports. Upon the deal's revelation, Beckham was inundated with criticism due to Qatar's poor track record on human rights. Beckham pushed back hard. In an interview with The Telegraph, he defended his decision. "I do a lot of research into partners that I'm going into business with, and I wanted to be involved in another World Cup. I like to see the game grow, and that means it going into territories it hasn't been in before. The scrutiny didn't go away, but neither did the deal and the money. Between $210 million and $280 million over a decade represents one of the single largest ambassador contracts ever signed by an athlete, retired or active." Then there's the newer venture that's quietly becoming one of the most interesting lines in his portfolio. Eclipsed $100 million in annual recurring revenue in only 11 months. The company has supplied over 24 million servings of its products to more than 800 customers in 40-plus countries across the globe. IM8 projects its revenue will fall between $180 million and $200 million in 2026. 11 months, $100 million. That's not a celebrity side project. That's a serious business. And it's one that ties directly into the Inter-Miami ecosystem, with the club now holding an equity stake in the brand's parent company. Beckham also owns a stake in Authentic Brands, the parent company of brands such as Reebok, Nautica, and Juicy Couture, and the magazine Sports Illustrated. Authentic Brands owns the rights to the estates of celebrities, such as Elvis Presley, Marilyn Monroe, and Muhammad Ali. His name sits in a portfolio alongside Elvis Presley and Muhammad Ali. Let that land for a second. Overall, it is estimated that his annual earnings range between $40 million and $60 million. Celebrity Net Worth reported that his current annual salary is $50 million. So his fortune continues to grow. $50 million a year retired from football, 12 years after hanging up his boots. So what does a fortune like this actually look like in practice? What does the daily life of David Beckham, Sir David Beckham, as he's now officially known, actually consist of? Across the Atlantic, they own a $24 million penthouse in Miami. $80 million for a house. In Miami Beach? On the water. That's the kind of purchase that makes headlines in its own right. And it was only the latest acquisition. Their Beverly Hills property bought for $18.7 million and sold for $33 million. Shows their knack for profitable flips. They also own villas in Dubai and a residence in the south of France. The Beckham's Cotswolds Retreat is a converted barn estate worth around $8 million, featuring a private football pitch and lake. A private football pitch on a converted barn estate in the English countryside. That's not showing off, that's just Tuesday for the Beckhams. It has been reported that they own a property in the Burj Khalifa in Dubai, the tallest skyscraper in the world. From East London to the tallest skyscraper on the planet, the man who grew up watching Manchester United games from the terraces now has a home in the sky, above one of the most expensive cities on Earth. Then, there's the knighthood. It was a very emotional day. David Beckham said, as he was knighted by King Charles during a ceremony at Windsor Castle. The knighthood, which the former Manchester United and England star described as his proudest moment, brings to a successful end. The 20-year campaign he waged for the honor. 20 years. He'd been made an OBE back in 2003, but a knighthood, a Sir, that was different. Lady Beckham, Victoria Adams from the Spice Girls, Lady Beckham, and while Victoria's own story deserves its own video, her contribution to the family's financial machine is significant. Victoria launched Victoria Beckham Beauty, which, according to The Times, generated revenues of up to £89 million in 2024. The Sunday Times Rich List estimated the couple's combined fortune at $185 billion in 2026, placing them among the wealthiest celebrity couples in Britain, £1 billion. Combined, the kid from Leytonstone and the girl from the Spice Girls, together, £1 billion. And the context matters here. Beckham is joined in the billionaire bracket by Barry and Eddie Hearn, whose Matchroom sport empire is valued at £135 billion. The list highlights Lewis Hamilton at £435 million, Rory McIlroy at $325 million, and Anthony Joshua at $240 million. Hamilton, McIlroy, Joshua, all active, all earning, all worth hundreds of millions. And Beckham, retired for over a decade, has lapped every single one of them. Beckham is one of just 7 living professional athletes to reach billionaire status. That list includes names like Michael Jordan and Tiger Woods, people who redefined their sports. And sitting alongside them now is a midfielder from East London who bent free kicks. So is David Beckham a billionaire? The numbers say yes, though depending on which source you trust and how you count shared assets between him and Victoria, You'll get figures ranging from $450 million on the conservative side to the Sunday Times rich list's $185 billion combined. What isn't in doubt is the direction of travel. Their wealth has surged largely because of the rising value of Beckham's U.S. football investments. Every year, the Inter-Miami stake gets more valuable. Every year, the brand deals compound. Every year, IM8 pushes further into new markets. Football made Beckham famous, but ownership and business investments made him far richer. Beckham's wealth still gets attention because it was built long after his playing career peaked. His career evolved from elite footballer to long-term business owner, with investments spanning sport, media, fashion, endorsements, and licensing. The real story of the billionaire life of David Beckham isn't about the mansions or the knighthood or even the messy signing. It's about a kid who figured out, before almost anyone else, that fame, properly managed, is an asset class. That if you build a brand with the same discipline and consistency you bring to your craft, it will outlast the career that created it. As Beckham himself said, "I knew that soccer would grow in America. I just had to be patient and build something that would last forever." That patience, combined with a messy masterstroke and world-class execution, turned belief into a billion-dollar reality. $1 billion.